Hello everybody, welcome back to yet another installment of Life Stories. My name is Trent and I hope you guys are doing awesome as always. Today we got some stories coming at you from Reddit/idontworkherelady. So without further ado, let's see where people aren't working at today. Our first story of the day is titled, COVID Makes the Crazies Even Crazier. Last night I stopped at the store for a few things, wore a mask and all that fun stuff. At one point, the mask kept sagging weird, so I took a second to readjust it. Enter Karen, who apparently only saw the 0.3 seconds I wasn't wearing a mask. "Why don't you have a mask on?" in such a snippy tone, but whatever, I guess. By this point, I've already put it back on, so I just look at her like, it's right here, and go back to my shopping. "All employees must wear a mask at all times. You're putting everyone at risk." Keep in mind, she's not even wearing a mask herself, but again, whatever. "I don't work here. It's encouraged for customers, but not required." "Well, I can't wear a mask because of my asthma, so you still have to." She mumbled something about kids these days, but I had blocked her out as best I could. "Well, you could at least move so I can safely reach the stuffing." I didn't notice until then, but she'd been closer than 6 feet from me the whole time. I'm all about staying civil and keeping everyone safe, but this lady was too much. "Nope, the longer you bug me, the longer I'm going to be browsing here," I said. You know the old lady grasping her pearls gasp? She made that noise so loud I couldn't help but chuckle. "I need to see your manager." I had already told her I didn't work here, and I thought she heard me, but apparently not. I tried again, but she kept cutting me off, saying, "Manager," over and over again, like a broken record. This is where I got petty. I could have left, could have kept explaining that I didn't work there, could have gotten an actual store employee, but instead, I just took off my mask. She ran, like way faster than I expected an older lady to run, let alone an older lady with bad enough asthma to justify not wearing a mask. Maybe she thought I was going to cough on her? Makes me think she's messed with people before, and maybe someone else reacted that way. I didn't see her after that, thankfully. The evil part of me wanted to touch every single stuffing box, which was admittedly too far, and could affect others, but a hilarious idea. I can't even imagine what she would have done. It was just so weird to me that she would make such a big fuss, not follow any guidelines herself, then just run away, never to be seen again. Some say she's still running to this day. You know, OP, I like how this played out. You spooked a Karen, but you don't mess with the stuffing. Everyone loves stuffing, so treat it with respect. Moving along, our next story is titled, Angry Karen and Bonus Kent at the DMV. This one's a twofer. Our cast, me, E, not a DMV employee, K, Karen, and MK, male Karen. Setting, outside of the DMV. For background, our DMV has been closed for a couple of months due to the pandemic. They just recently opened and are currently appointment only, except for a couple simple functions that are really simple and quick. Initially, they were only accepting those who had appointments from before, but were canceled due to the closure. They've extended the deadline on renewals should your car or license come due, and are encouraging people to stay away for another month or so, if possible. On Tuesday, they started taking appointments for anyone who had pressing DMV business. We recently got a car from out of state, and in order to be able to drive it at all, you have to get a movement permit, and can only get those in person at the DMV. Act 1. So, I'm there yesterday, and after talking to the DMV lady out front, I get shuffled to the side to wait for the movement permit guy. There's a line outside for the people with appointments. They get checked in, and then are let in a few at a time, as agents become available. The movement permit guy comes out, and I start doing the paperwork for my permit. Enter Karen. Karen shows up without an appointment, first talking, then, of course, yelling at the guy standing out front. Let me describe the guy out front. Dressed in full black uniform, and it clearly says police on the guy's bulletproof vest. Clearly not a DMV employee, but law enforcement security. Karen, with volume rising so all can hear, "I tried to make an appointment last week. It wasn't working." E was calmly saying something while she continued to yell, but since he wasn't yelling like K, I couldn't hear him. As I stated above, they had only started taking appointments the day before. This was clear on the website, should you bother to read it. This lady's behavior sets something off in me, and I yell out, "They started taking appointments on the 22nd, yesterday." Lo and behold, it actually shut her up, and she walked away all pissed off. Must be a new Karen. Just to make it clear, I'm almost totally about non-confrontation. I'll usually just sit there when crap like this happens. Yelling out like that at someone is out of my character. It's just that lately, I've been so sick of all the freaking narcissistic idiots that are permeating our society right now. I just snapped a little bit. Act 2. Not but a few moments later, this guy, MK, walks up, pauses, and just yells out, "Could you make the line any longer?" I thought at first he was being sarcastic, as this is the DMV, but he looked so pissed off. Then he turned around and just walked back to his car, shaking his head in disgust. Here's a few details that make his outburst all the more confusing and why I thought he was joking. 1. One could clearly see the line from the parking lot before approaching the building. 2. This was the fewest amount of people and the shortest line I have ever seen at the DMV. It's never that small. And 3. The parking lot was more than half empty. This never happens. Usually, you have to drive around for 5 to 15 minutes just to get a spot to go inside, to hurry up and wait for hours. You know, I'm pretty sure I've said this before on this channel, but being Canadian, I'm always thankful that I don't have to deal with the DMV every time I hear it from Americans. At least in my experience, the equivalent of the DMV that we have up here is relatively painless, if not sometimes long, but what can you do? Seems like all the crazies just flock to the DMV. Moving along, our next story is titled, "I Can't Sell You This Animal." So this is a pretty long one, I think. There's quite a bit of backstory needed, and I'm not so good at writing, so please excuse my format. So just before Christmas, I got 2 little rats who are my absolute life. I spend more money on treats and toys for them than I do for food for myself. They came from my local pet store, and it also happens to be where I go for most of their stuff. I made an effort to learn as much as I could about my animals before I got them, and carried this on after getting them. At this point, I know how to handle and deal with them more than the staff there do. They only get basic handling training, it's not their fault. So sometimes the staff ask me questions that can help them in the future. Mid-lockdown, I went to grab some food and bedding for my 2 boys when I was pulled to the tank of rats with 2 boys in it. I had handled the boys already when they were little before the lockdown. That was about 8 weeks prior. I asked about the selling policies because they were getting too big for the tank and I felt really bad for them. After some time talking, the staff manager eventually let me adopt them because they trusted I could give them a loving home and the attention that they just won't get in the store. They are the most spoiled rats ever, I swear. So since then, I've been in there a lot, buying stuff and talking to the staff and getting to know them well. Due to the distancing restrictions, the animal area is barricaded off, so customers can't get in there. One of the managers came up to me asking if I'd be able to have a look at a couple of the girls they've had as well since before the lockdown, because one of them seems aggressive, but they don't know how to handle her or what to do. I take a look and quickly deduct that she is almost completely blind. I offer to come in and handle her whenever I can, and they agree that it would be a good idea. I'd like to add that store policy restricts employees from handling animals outside of selling and feeding, which they hate as much as I do. After handling her and her sister for a while, I stood near the checkout chatting with a staff member on duty, we'll call him Jay, for a while. In this time, of maybe 5 minutes, there was a woman, we'll call her Karen, with a young boy of maybe 6 years old, who started scoffing at us. I was wearing black jeans and a Rick and Morty print tee. Don't judge me, it was cheap. And the staff uniform is black cargo pants and a bright-colored polo, usually green or blue for all staff members. Jay and I share a glance that says, "Here we go." Jay, in the best customer voice I've ever heard, "Hi, how can I help you today?" "My son wants a rabbit. He can't go and see them. Move the barricade so he can pick one." "I'm sorry, but I'll have to ask you to wait for my colleague to come back from her break so she can help you." Karen scoffs. "You can help us, can't you?" I apologize, but someone has to be on the register at all times. I can't leave. My colleague will be back in a minute to help you. Karen, gesturing to me, well, why can't she help me? Oh, I'm sorry, I said. I don't... She cuts me off. Don't talk back to me. I saw you in there alone, so you can help us. Ma'am, she doesn't work here. Then why can she go in and I can't? She's a trusted customer who knows how to handle our rats. She was simply looking in on them as one of them seemed to be blind. She confirmed that for us. This is disgusting. Why are you allowing one customer in, but not me? My poor baby just wants a rabbit to play with. Is that too hard for you to understand? As I said, my colleague will be back soon to help you. Feel free to look from the barrier. Karen, now looking at me, you obviously work here. Why else would you be talking to the staff? Now move the barrier so my son can look at the bunnies. Seriously, I don't work here. I was just checking on the rats, I said. Then fine, check the rabbits so my son can pick one. I can't do that. It's not my job and I know nothing about them. I want to see you fired, refusing to help a customer. This is unacceptable. About now is when the other employee, we'll call her Tara, comes out. She was wearing a different color than Jay. Is everything okay here, Jay? Are you the manager? I want this girl fired. She refused to help me. She doesn't work here, miss. Is there something I could help you with? My son wants to buy a rabbit, but this girl refused to help. What kind of store is this anyway? I gesture bye to Tara and Jay while she's still on her rant and start heading to the door. Where do you think you're going? I want to see you get fired. Your attitude towards me was very rude. Tara looks at me and we both sigh. OP, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to let you go. We don't tolerate rude behavior towards customers. Me, realizing this was the only way it'll be sorted. What? No, I love working here. I'm sorry, but this was unacceptable, she said. You've been a good employee until now. Thank you for working with us. I pretend to look sad and walk out. A couple of days later, I went back in and Jay was on the tills again. I asked him what happened after I left, and he told me that she was unimpressed with how we treated her, so she will find somewhere else to get her son a rabbit. The store holds the right to decide if someone can purchase an animal, and I doubt they would let her anyway. Well, at the end of the day, it's kinda good that's how it played out. I have this sneaking suspicion that if this kid was to get a rabbit, it wouldn't be a very happy one. Anyway, we're all out of time for today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank all of you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of Life Stories. My name is Trent. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Reddit content coming your way, and I hope to see you guys soon.